Good afternoon and happy Friday. It's September. Oh my gosh, the 18th. I can't even believe it. September is flying by. Hi, this is Maria Quattrone. I'm the host of the podcast, Be the Solution. And today I have my guest, Attiyah Blair. Welcome, Attiyah.
Thank you. So good to be here.
So good to see you. I love your green. Right on point.
Yeah.
Your brand.
Thank you. Yeah, the seems like the warm weather's rolling out, so I'm trying to keep it bright and fresh.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's interesting. It's Friday, but I never know the difference between Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. But yeah, I'm doing great today. Thanks.
You're welcome. They all seem the same, right?
Yes.
I always want to know when it's Sunday though, because that's my day to sleep in if I want.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, that's the day. I usually don't sleep in too late, but anyway. So I want to know about your journey, your story. I'm sure all of our guests would love to hear it. It's such a inspiring story from where you were to how you came here, you got to where you are today, and I think our guests will really enjoy it.
Okay, great. Yeah, I love to share. So my name is Attiyah Blair, as you said. I am a full-time real estate investor. I am a real estate mentor, and I'm also a licensed realtor. And I always say that with a caveat. I really have my license to be a more fluid investor. I don't typically represent other buyers. My family members and friends pull me in here and there. But yeah, I'm primarily an investor in the Philadelphia area. I have invested in North Carolina and in Maryland as well, but I'm investing more heavily in Philadelphia right now. What else? So I've been investing for 13 years. I've been full-time in real estate for 4 years, and I've been a licensed realtor for 2 of those years. So I started out 13 years ago. I bought my first house. I was 23 years old in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was down there working with NBC News. So I worked in television actually for 10 years before going full-time into real estate. I worked for NBC News, Fox, and CBS during that period in DC, Baltimore, Philly, and Raleigh, North Carolina. So that's what took me to Raleigh, was work. Great place to live. The real estate is a lot less expensive than where I was from, which was the DC area. So I got me a piece of real estate while I was down there, which was great, especially at such a young age.
Yeah, how did you decide to do that? 23, it's pretty young, even by today's standards, to buy. Most of the buyers purchased till their late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah, so first of all, I was just always kind of ahead at every age, to be honest. I suppose an old soul, if you want to call it that. My first corporate job at Fox, I landed when I was 19 years old. So that's just always super ambitious, I suppose. But my father was a general contractor since the day I was born. And I always tell the stories about how when other kids were at summer camp, I was on the job with my dad. That was my summer camp. That was my actual year.
Real sweat equity.
Yeah, I wasn't working. I'm just running around being a kid. And he did teach me things here and there, like how to do drywall and some basic plumbing. But I'm sure my attention span, I wasn't, too terribly interested in any of that. But I obviously got the real estate bug. And I remember from the age of 19, I just wanted to buy a house so bad. And I started reading a lot of books, Home Buying for Dummies, Home Ownership 101, learning all the real estate lingo and terms, learning about mortgages, FHA loans, all that good stuff. And when I got to Raleigh, North Carolina, it just seemed like a good opportunity. And I took the leap and I got it. I was not making much money, for those listening to me now. We kind of have an idea, and it could come from something we read or someone we know. We have an idea about what it takes to become a home buyer. I was only making $32,000 a year. They don't pay in TV well in the smaller markets. So I was a producer. I was only making $32,000 a year. So for me to buy this house, and it was $132,000, I got an FHA loan. I got a first-time home buyer's grant from the city. and it was actually new construction. I got a townhouse, and I got $15,000 in credit from the builder. It took all these folks to come together for me to get my first home.
Wow.
And it was great.
That's pretty amazing. What was the impetus for it? What pushed you to do it?
There's not one thing or another that I can point towards. I just wanted to be a homeowner really bad. And I'm not sure where it came from, what I saw. I just really wanted to be a homeowner. And I chased after it. I read up about it. And going to North Carolina, where the real estate was so much cheaper versus where I was in the DC area, it just seemed like a no-brainer. So I said, let me try. And I got it done.
Wow. And did you have a real estate agent working with you?
I did have an agent. She was fantastic. Rosalind Dennis. It's been, that's so crazy that I don't even remember her name. That tells you how great she was. So that was obviously going on 14 years at this point. And she took me out to some homes. She was terribly impressed by how much research I did before I got there. I knew everything about the neighborhoods. I was just that kind of person. And then working at the TV station, I can hear like the police scanners and things like that on the assignment desk. So I kind of knew what was going on, even though I wasn't from North Carolina, from Raleigh. I kind of knew what was going on in the different areas. And we were looking for homes. I didn't find anything I liked. And she took me to new construction, and that just ruined everything. I didn't want anything except new construction at that point, even though I could barely afford it. But she got me in there. We worked it out.
Yeah, it sounds like it. You got an FHA, you got $15,000 builder credit, and you got a grant. So you probably put very little money down.
Yeah, it was maybe $1,000 or $2,000. I didn't have much to put down at that time. So, yeah.
So that's how you got your first house.
But it was insane because this was 2007. So we know what happened in 2008 and 2009, right? But it was a great lesson for me. I didn't know that I was going to be an investor at the time, but it was a great lesson for me to learn how to navigate through a recession. And so, you know, there's obviously a lot of talk right now about an impending recession. I'm ready and I'm prepared because, you know, I was investing in real estate during the last one.
So what did you do? You lived in the house?
I lived there for 11 months and then I moved to Philadelphia. And now when I bought it, I already was thinking as an investor, and I was already looking for a place that I felt would make an easy rental. I did not know that I would be leaving so soon. But this guy that really liked me, he asked me to move to Philadelphia. And I said, okay, you know, what am I moving for? But long story short, we've now been married for 11 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So my boyfriend at the time, now husband, brought me to the area. So yeah, I lived there for 11 months and rented it out, and I managed it from afar for over a decade. And I just sold it this past June.
Wow. What did you sell it for?
I sold it for $146,000. So I'll give you the number. So I bought it for $132,000. By 2009, when the economy dropped, it was only worth about $85,000. And everyone around me was foreclosing. I was not knowledgeable enough about the markets, about real estate, to even be scared of what was happening. So I held on to it. And in my mind, I did basic math. Does the rent cover the mortgage? And it did. And so I kept it. And that was that. And the value came back. Obviously, I paid it down significantly, you know, owning it over a decade. So I made a good piece of change on that. I did a 1031 exchange out of it to not have to pay, you know, the capital gain taxes on it. And I bought 2 properties in Philadelphia with my profits on that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, you could have just gave in like everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm. Not a different kind of gal.
No, because it comes down to integrity and figuring out the right path to take and to keep going and know that, you know, you can figure this out. You don't have to just say, oh, I'm going to go to foreclosure like everybody else.
Yeah, for sure. And if I knew then what I knew now, I would have started buying up all the foreclosures in the community.
All right.
I didn't know then, but I know what I know now, though. So it's
we learn from our lessons, right? That's all part of the journey.
For
So
sure.
you come to Philadelphia and you're working, are you working at NBC?
NBC,
then, or?
yep, working at NBC 10. So I left there in 2011. So I got to Philadelphia in 08, left in 11. So I was there for 4 years. It was great. Working in television, that's what I always wanted to do. So I was doing what I always wanted to do. But then, I got to the point where I didn't feel satisfied, and that turned to misery, if I'm being honest. I'm always on the move, even now. And I'm always, even when I accomplish something, I'm like, great, awesome, pat myself on the back for 2 seconds, but not too long. I'm on to, what's the next great thing I can accomplish. And I felt myself just looking around the newsroom and saying, I don't want my boss's job, so that's not an option. I don't want my boss's job, so that's not an option. I don't even want my job anymore, right? So I knew that I had to do something. And I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is in my blood. My grandparents, my grandmother and grandfather on my mother and father's side own their own businesses. My father was a full-time entrepreneur since the day I was born. And my mom, had a bit of the entrepreneurial bug herself. She loved interior design, actually. So that's probably where I get that from. So it wasn't a matter of if I would start my own business, it was when. And as I got more and more antsy, I started to explore some options, and things kind of got a bit uncomfortable for me at the TV station. And so I decided it was time, and I left, and I haven't looked back since. It's been my 9-year anniversary was last week, actually. So it's exciting.
That feels pretty good, I bet.
It feels incredible.
You never look back.
No.
And you take all the things that you learned from that and you bring it into your next career.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's 9 years in investing.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell us, what kind of properties do you invest in?
So right now I'm investing mostly in small multifamily properties in the Philadelphia area. So triplexes, quads, all that good stuff. I've had a few people try to pull me into, larger projects, and not that I won't go there, but I do love the control over, the smaller deals. And I'm not buying, I will buy a single here and there if it's just an amazing deal in a neighborhood that I like, because I do own, quite a few single family homes. The tenants tend to stay longer, they have their families there, they're set up. So there's some, pros to that. But I do like the multifamily properties. They just make more sense for me.
What areas do you buy in?
Mostly West Philadelphia. Everyone wants to be over there. I think it's one of the pockets in the city where you can still get a good deal versus the other areas that are kissing Center City, like Fairmount Park, Point Breeze. These areas are, Brewery Town. It's a bit tight in those areas. So I'm out in West Philly mostly. And I do have some properties up by Temple University, Temple Med, West Allegheny. So I'm in those areas too.
So are you buying and then adding value and holding, or are you flipping, or you buying turnkey properties? What type of assets?
Yeah, so I'm buying properties that mostly need a pretty good rehab. I'm open to turnkey. My first year where I went full time, I did a handful of flips, and those were heavy cosmetic rehabs, I like to call them. So the mechanicals were in good shape, so the electric, plumbing, all of that good stuff. But the kitchens were as old as I am, hadn't been updated since the 80s. And so, same with the bathrooms. So I would gut the kitchens, gut the bathrooms, because that's where you're getting your wow factor and your money from when you flip. And then just, new flooring if need be. But many of these houses, they have the original floors that were covered with shag carpet. When I go into a house and I see shag carpet, I get so excited, because a lot of times that means the original hardwood floors were preserved pretty well under there. So I did that for quite some time. And then I started to get into more, I'll call it complex and challenging rehabs, buying houses where you can't even walk on the floors because you'll fall through the floor, no roof, no back wall, sidewall crumbling, foundation crumbling. So I'm buying a lot of those kinds of properties now, adding value by, breathing life into them, making them safe again, making them beautiful again, and then, providing, safe and beautiful housing for folks in Philadelphia.
So are you a GC?
I do not have my GC license. I kind of don't want that. I do not want that liability. But I do GC my own projects. I manage my crews. I have my, guys that have worked for me for years. I am moving into a project manager model because it's just too many. Like I have 5 rehabs going on right now. So it gets to be a lot, especially with my mentoring that I'm doing. And I really care about taking good care of my students. So I am beginning to move into a project management model where I talk to my project manager and he manages all the guys, but it's been a tough transition because they're used to talking to me and talking to me. So I have to tell them, you can't call me anymore. You talk to him, kind of thing. And I still write all the checks, all that good stuff. So
how's that working out?
It's going good. It's going good. I think it's necessary. When you're in business, you have to outsource. We can be the biggest cog, and the biggest block in our businesses trying to do everything ourselves. And my business is exploding. What really forced me to look at that model was last year I picked up 19 units. Well, we could say 20. I'm going through zoning on one property to add an additional unit. So 20 units. The year before 10. And if I were doing that and only that, maybe it would be manageable, but it's not. It's going through the construction, constantly looking for more, properties to invest in, and then the property management, all the paperwork that comes with that, taking good care of my tenants, the maintenance requests, all those good things. And then I do Airbnb as well. So I manage my Airbnb properties. All the, the cleaning, the managing the crews that do those things. And then I am doing mentoring as well. I have, a workshop that I do called How to Build $1 Million Real Estate Portfolio in 1 year, where I'm teaching women. It's men and women, but about 80% of my students that come to my class are women, which I do love because women need a safe place to come and learn about investing in an environment that's not intimidating, where they get exactly what they need. So I do that several times a year. So that takes a bit of time.
So you have a class coming up right now.
Yeah. Yes, October 17th and 18th.
And that's going to be over in the Crown Plaza.
The Crown Plaza. Yep. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited about it. It's going
you just added some more seats, so there are some available still.
There are 7 seats left. This class always sells out. It's an amazing experience, if I may say so myself. I've put together an official curriculum. It's my 13 years of experience in a book. And I walk my students through the entire process from beginning to end. So it's very clear, because I always like to say a cluttered mind does nothing. And when we're watching YouTube and Instagram and following this person and picking up random information, going to little workshops, picking up random information from all these different places, it's really hard to know, okay, well, I just learned some good information about construction, or I just learned some good information about refinancing the loan, or how to find properties, but how do I put all this random information together to actually get a deal done? And so my class bridges that gap. And, whatever area that's, holding folks up from actually jumping out there to get started. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's always amazing.
So how did you get started with that? I mean, what made you decide to put this together? I mean, did you just wake up one day, or are people asking you to help them, or?
That's a good question. So yeah, my DMs are constantly full with folks asking me to mentor them. And it would be impossible for me to mentor so many people one-on-one. So I said, let me create a class, a curriculum, where I can just give all the tricks, tips, gems, knowledge, and information that folks need to be successful. It's 2 long, action-packed days, but we're having fun and learning a lot. And I do give you, the entire process in its entirety. We do a property tour. This year it's going to be virtual because of COVID, but it's going to still be incredible. And then every student leaves class with their own personal blueprint, because everyone's personal goals are different. Some people might want to pick up 20 units in a year like I've just done. Some might want 40. Some people might want one property a year, and that's still great because one property a year over, a few years really adds up to having a better retirement, because that's, we're doing this for our future. So, some you can make money now too, but a lot of people want to invest in real estate for, that the wealth building aspect, and a lot of the wealth is built with equity that we gain over time. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you bought 19 or 20 properties last year, and that seems like a pretty good amount. Keep you pretty darn busy. So are you self-financing these? How are you have investors? How are you doing it?
So I put together each deal, uniquely. So I am primarily using, other people's funds. I do sometimes, for example, there was a property that came up. It was $36,000. They wanted a quick close. I had the cash. I bought it cash. But typically I do creative financing to purchase these properties with no money out of my own pocket. So I'll do something like a hard money lender, which they'll give me 75% of the purchase and 100% of the rehab. And so that 25% of the purchase that I have to bring to the table, I do have private investors, old coworkers, family members who have $100,000 sitting around, or family members who have, money sitting around in a 401k that's not making a significant return. They invested with my company. I give them a great return every time, and they keep investing with me.
Oh, so they're doing the self-directed IRA, like a CAMA plan or something like that.
I really don't get into how they,
gotcha.
They just let me know, hey, Attiyah, I have this amount that it's not working for me, because a chunk of cash, even myself, if I have, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes sitting in a bank account, I want it out on the street working for me. I don't like to have that much money sitting there, because it's just making the bank rich, and they already have what they need.
Right. They're definitely not giving us too much return these days.
No.
I mean, if you put it in online banking, I think you can get like 2%.
Exactly.
But sitting in TDs not helping too much building the long-term wealth.
So exactly what I advise other people to do. Don't have those chunks of cash just sitting around. Yes, have your reserves, your savings, and those are off limits. But anything else, you should invest it.
So some days you probably get up and you're stressed and you have a lot going on, and maybe you don't feel like doing this for a minute. How do you get yourself in the right mindset? What do you do for yourself?
That's a really good question. There certainly has to be a lot of self-care in this business. I genuinely do love what I do, but yeah, there are some days. I had one of those days this week where I'm just had some contractor drama, and I'm like, why am I doing this again? So one thing I teach my students is to get out of your feelings and get into the numbers. So that's one thing. I just stay focused on that. I don't get into the minutia of a lot of things. For example, I have property management for all of my properties in-house. And my assistant came to me and she said, hey, Attiyah, this tenant walked out and she trashed the place. Look at this. I said, I don't want to see it. Call the cleaner, get an estimate to have it cleaned up, and let me know what the bill is. I'll pay the bill. I don't get into those details because this is a house that I renovated. Of course, I'm not going to be happy about seeing it in bad condition, but I get out of my feelings. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these things we get upset about, they don't really matter anyway. And I think once you go around the block enough times, which I have, I've rehabbed enough houses, worked with enough contractors. Really, with real estate, most of the issues are time and money. So I just give it a little time and put towards whatever effort, attention I need to over that period of time to resolve the issue. And then a lot of issues can be solved with money. And
that is true.
Yeah.
It does solve a lot of problems.
Exactly. And when I say that, and I don't mean to say it so casually, but when I say that, for example, the same issue with the tenant trashing the place. It cost me like $800 to get someone to clean their furniture out, clean their clothes out, get the cleaners in, scrub the fridge, scrub the microwave, the oven, because they left it filthy, and it's done. So I could have gotten upset and cussed at the photos and, called the tenant and said, why would you do this? I kept my blood pressure down. I have other things to focus on. Had the crew go in, clean it up, $800, threw some money at it. It's done. I'm moving on to have a good day. So I don't let things like that ruin my day, because with so many properties, so many rehabs going on, if I'm going to get in my feelings about every little thing that goes wrong, I'll be a very unhappy person. And I'm actually a very happy person in general. I wake up, I'm in a good mood, I'm happy about life, and that's a choice, and I think a lot of times we forget that happiness is a choice, and I choose happiness.
It certainly is a choice.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that have happened in the last 6 months have been hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Are you concerned about tenants and paying rent and everything that's going on with the city, and has that affected you at all? Or
yeah, it certainly had an impact, but the impact hasn't been too terrible. I had 2 tenants who weren't paying, but these are folks who weren't paying before COVID, but now you can't even evict them. You can't put them out, which that's infuriating. I'm not gonna lie about that, right? I actually had one person who we were set for her final lockout to have that day in court the week after everything shut down because of COVID. And so we actually just got to go back to court 2 weeks ago. And because of all the protests outside of City Hall about evictions, the judge pushed it back to December. So she's now been there, right, draw drop, right, from March to September, and now she gets, more time. So, but again, I look at it as a numbers issue, okay? So this is in a multifamily property, so my expenses are covered with all the other units, and even if they weren't, I cash flow so well on other properties, I can still cover the note on that. I haven't taken any forbearance. I haven't taken any furloughs on my mortgages, because I don't think that's smart for my long-term game plan, because banks will look at that when they start to tighten the purse strings. They will be looking at folks who, the market sneezed, when COVID started, and, you got to take you didn't have any reserves to continue to pay us. So again, I have been impacted with COVID, in that way, but in general, things are good. And you have to be mentally agile in business. And so these challenges come up, and I just go, all right, this is what we're dealing with. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to turn these lenders into lenders? And I figure it out.
Well, that's what we have to do as business owners. We got to figure it out. We have challenges that come up every day, and some days are harder than others, and we got to roll with the good and the bad.
Yes.
It's what we decided, right? We made a choice, and we decided to be in this business, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
So it's always about making the right choices and then saying, okay, how can I be the solution? Right? So what's the solution to that? Your solution is you have other properties, the money is coming from those, so you're okay with that. But there's other people that probably don't have that, right? They may have to sell now because they can't continue to pay mortgage with no money coming in.
Sure.
I mean, are you seeing a lot of deals on the street lately?
Yeah, it's certainly a lot of rehabs that people have started and they can't afford to finish. And there are, if you were a tired landlord before COVID, you're probably exhausted at this point. I will say, and speaking of being the solution, I did share a resource on my page when COVID started about all the government programs and grants, because there are quite a few programs out there to help people who have been furloughed, who have lost their job, to be able to pay their rent. I actually had a tenant on Market Street in West Philly who contacted us yesterday. He works for one of the airlines. He said, hey, I can't pay. He said, I have just enough money to pay for another month or two, but after that, I'm kind of out if they don't hire me again. and I'm signing up for this government program. Can you sign this paperwork so I can get, funding? So there are resources out there. So I tell landlords, before you sell and just give up, I share that resource. So, you can try to get some money.
Is that from like some of the subsidized programs like
From
Social Security or, well,
Yeah.
there's obvious, there's the PHA or Philadelphia Youth or.
There's tons of, I couldn't even name them all, to be honest. It was a list of about 20, but there are different resources out there for different folks.
Wow. I don't think a lot of people know about that. I think that's probably not right in front of, not at their fingertips.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it comes down to, right, being resourceful, being the solution. How can you solve a problem?
Exactly.
So the 19 you bought, did you find them yourself? Did you get them from wholesalers? Did you go to seller direct? How'd you do that? Because that's a pretty good amount to source.
Yeah. So they came from wholesalers and other investors. So I have some investor buddies who they either want to do larger projects. So I said, oh, no problem. You want 10 units? Well, throw me your scraps of triplexes and quads. That's fine. I'll take them. And then there's some investors where a triplex or quad might be too much for them because they don't have the level of experience to navigate that project. And so they bring them to me. I give them, $5,000, $10,000, depending on how sweet the deal is. And then wholesalers as well. People, know me pretty well in the marketplace, and they know that I'm a serious buyer. They know that I close fast. I don't play any games. And so they're inclined to bring me deals. So it was very interesting. I didn't have to go out and look for much last year.
Well, that's good because that's in itself a job.
Yes.
Acquisition.
Yes.
Right. The acquisition portion of it could be exhausting, especially right now. Inventory for those properties is pretty tight.
It is.
So
it is.
I think in the future, next year, I think you'll see some more opening up. What I've seen over the last 6 months has been people trying to figure out what they should do. Should they so there's a lot of no movement in the disposition of the asset. It's okay. Let's see. Should we do this project? Should we wait? Should we see what's going to happen? I mean, for the last few months, I think people now have to start to make some decisions because you don't want to sit there with vacant property for too long or half vacant property and I have starting to see some rehabs that have not been finished. So that's interesting. But I've seen that before COVID, actually. I think there was a lot of people that, want to get into investing and don't really know all of the rules. I say rules, but the steps behind what that looks like. And so you are a little bit in over your head in some instances is it's just been what I've seen. I don't know if you've seen that as well.
Yeah, I was actually walking through a property this week that I bought near Temple University, and it's totally framed up. They started all the electrical. The place is basically totally wired. Some of the plumbing's in, but it's crazy because they didn't do the roof. So you have this major roof damage. You have major damage to the areas beneath it going down. So three-story building. So the water damage is going all the way down. So they started framing, electric, plumbing, and didn't take care of the basics, the roof, which is way cheaper. It's a fraction of the cost of any of those mechanicals. So they obviously didn't know. They even started with sheetrock. I'm like, how do you use sheetrock and you don't take care of your foundational things, the roof, your foundation itself? So I swooped right in and picked that one up. So that's my next project I'm working on.
That's cool.
Yeah, getting permits pulled for it now so we can get rocking and rolling.
Is the city opening up a little bit with the permitting?
Yeah, so it's interesting. During COVID, they had the bright idea of rolling out a brand new system, an online system, which look, it's appropriate, right? So now we don't have to go down to City Hall, but it certainly had its glitches and challenges. Things are moving at a snail's pace. They don't have the staffing, I suppose, to be able to handle all the applications that are coming in. So we're really at their mercy waiting. Things were taking a lot longer. Even physically getting an inspector out, it's taking a lot longer. But what do? You just do what you can do, and that's it.
Well, if you want to stay in the business, you have to roll with it.
Exactly.
You can't make them move any faster. So you put that in your numbers, right? I mean, you make your money on the buy.
Yes.
You always make your money on the buy. You buy right. Usually you're going to do okay unless it goes to hell in a handbasket quickly. But
right.
Yeah, that's where all the money is. I mean, and it's like, so you're teaching your class how to make those offers?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I really, I teach about, finding the deal. How do you even find it? When you find it, how do you know if it's a good deal? Okay. Now you got it. How do you negotiate it? Then how do you, find contractors? Because, contractors, they can really make or break your project, and none of them are going to say, hey, I suck, pay me money anyway, or hey, I'm going to start your job and never finish, pay me anyway, right? So I teach my students how you can navigate that. And that's a sweet spot for me, obviously, watching my dad, as a general contractor when I was a little girl. And so we go right through the construction process, how to, navigate that whole process, what goes first, electric, plumbing, framing, what to look for when you're doing that. And things to be thinking about while you're in the construction process. The design, if you do not have any design sense whatsoever, because I've gone into my share of flips and rehabs where you can tell the person should have not picked their finishes. It looks horrible. The tiles.
There's no theme.
No theme, yeah. So I teach students, even if you have no design sense whatsoever, how to make the place just gorgeous and stunning so buyers and tenants love it. And then how do you find those tenants, refinancing out of the deal so you get all of your money back. One of the reasons why I'm able to purchase so much property so quickly is because I'm getting all of my money out. And whether it's my money personally or my investors' money, I'm getting that money out and then some. And so the pot grows every time. So those 19 units that I picked up, they at the end of the deal cost me nothing to buy them. And I'm able to, just keep rolling with that. And the pot gets bigger, every time. The name of the class is How to Build $1 Million Real Estate Portfolio in 1 year, because I'm acquiring well over $1 million of real estate every year. And so finding those tenants, and then, repeating the process. Because you do have to be very disciplined as an investor. You're going to get large chunks of cash in your hand at any time, and you can reinvest it or go buy a Mercedes, and then that's it, it's gone. So
investing back into your business.
Yes.
So what's one of the biggest challenges that you face right now?
That's a good question. Biggest challenge is growth. Is my personal biggest challenge right now. I did not expect to buy 19 units last year. I was perfectly positioned for it. And one thing that pushed me to start buying so much real estate initially, the first year that I bought over $1 million of real estate, was doing a 1031 exchange. You have that small window where you have to pick up enough properties so you don't have to pay taxes on the property you sold. And so that's what made me, okay, gotta buy. And I got to the end of the year, I'm at over $1 million worth of real estate. So that wasn't too hard. So let's do it again, So my biggest challenge is growth, and you really have to be set up before you get there. And I wasn't. And so it was scrambling to hire folks. I have a full-time assistant now. I've bought on this project manager. And just outsourcing like bookkeeping, property management, all these things. So growth is my biggest challenge. When you asked me that question, I was going to say not knowing what exactly is going to happen in the economy, because that's another thing. But I feel like I'm preparing myself very well for the market to stay the same, which it can't stay the same for but so long. But that's what we said last year, right? So Um,
Yeah.
it's being prepared for that, which I am. And there's opportunity in an up market and a down market. And I plan to make the most of it, whichever way it goes. I'm ready to go.
That's great. So
Mhm.
yeah, scaling is definitely, it's a challenge.
Mhm.
It's a challenge. And sometimes, you know, businesses are successful, because of they stay small. And when you grow, sometimes you grow too quickly and you don't have the systems and processes in place. And then you have a lot of things that are not balanced, and there's many cogs missing out of the wheel. So you can't operate the same way you did with 5 properties when you own 30 properties, or 10
Right.
properties when you own 40 properties, or 40 properties when you own 200 properties.
Mhm.
So what's the end goal for you? What's your dreams? What are you doing?
So it's certainly an early retirement. The question is when. I said I'll retire in 3 years. My husband laughed at me. He was like, "You can't even sit still for like 5 minutes, and you're going to retire at 40?" Because I'll be 40 in 3 years. Um, I certainly. So it's interesting. Even though real estate investing comes natural to me, a lot of the all the moving parts kind of comes natural to me. I guess because of my upbringing with my mom and dad. My passion and my gift, the gift I was given when I was born, is public speaking. And that is really what I want to do. Where I am now, I am pulling in 6 figures in rental income every year. And it's good. But I also like to do a lot of philanthropy. And so hitting that $1 million number with cash flow is really important to me. So I'm getting there. Because even currently, my husband and I give away a lot of money, tens of thousands of dollars, to different causes, family members, friends, family members who want to go to college and wouldn't otherwise be able to afford it, things like that. And we love doing that. And it's really important to us, and we want to continue doing that. And I want to retire my husband as well, in those earlier years of entrepreneurship. He still is, even though business is extremely well, but that's tough, losing my full-time income. And I was making really good money when I left NBC, even though I was 27 years old. I would, work my way up. So I had exceeded the amount of money that I thought I would make at 27 years old. And, losing that income to start, my entrepreneurial journey. He was just, 100% supportive. And I want to give him the option to retire early. He loves working just like I do. So I don't know if he'll actually do that, but I want him to have that option. And then, there's certain family members we want to continue to take care of. So as far as the end game, it's just to, keep plugging away. And I don't want to work until I'm 60. And, a lot of people do that. They work until they're 60, 65, and they don't have the energy and strength to really enjoy life at a certain level. I love to travel. I'm a travel junkie. So I want to be able to do lots of traveling, which I do now. Even COVID hasn't stopped me on the road a lot during this period, safely, of course. So yeah, that's the end game. And it looks like Maria has popped off. I can hang out for a minute. I'll talk a little bit. Hopefully she'll come back on, but I can talk a little bit about my class for anyone who's interested in that. I just decided to do it because I felt like women.
Hi.
Oh, there you go. I was going to add it there. What I was talking about, how women need a safe space to invest in real estate. And so my class really has been that. And guys come and they're welcome, and everyone's welcome. But yeah, I've created a safe space for women to come and invest. And I'll continue to do that even when I go into quote unquote retirement. I don't know if your sound is back on, Maria.
Okay. My whole entire PC shut down, and
Okay.
I had you on. You were on here, so I heard everything you said.
Oh, cool. I kept it rolling for you.
Yeah.
Good.
I heard you. I was like, you don't want to work till you're 60. I hear you. I would like to be retired when I'm 62,
Yeah.
but I better get moving faster because I'm behind the 8 ball over here. So,
It's all good.
but it's great to talk with you today. Your energy is so contagious, and I'm really excited for you, for your future and all the great things that you're doing and how philanthropic you are. I am as well. So I can really appreciate that. And I'm excited for you. I hope that you get sure you're going to fill up with the 40 students.
For sure.
That's going to be awesome.
Thank
and maybe one of these days I could come in and see you in action.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Actually, yeah, that would be great. That would be great. But I am very grateful and thankful for you being on the solution today. And I wish you a wonderful weekend and a much more success in your business, Attiyah.
Thank you so much, Maria, for having me come on. It's been great. It's been great chatting with you. I'm sure when things open up a little more, I'll be bumping into you in the city. And I pass your office all the time. I live maybe 3 minutes from your office. So
you should stop by and say
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, you should stop by and say hi. I'm here pretty much every day. So
when I go to Sabrina's to grab not Sabrina's, Honey Sydney, to grab a bite, I'll come over and say hello.
Yeah, definitely do so. Just knock on the door. I'm in the back, so if you don't see me, it doesn't mean I'm not here. I'm like hidden behind my little computer.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, great to see you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.